Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at RSI's Drug Screening Update Lunch and Learn webinar. I'm Stephanie and I work in compliance and special projects at Reference Services. Just a quick reminder, we are recording the webinar today and the recording and slides will be sent via email within the next day or two for all attendees. We want to start with our legal disclaimer. So as you know, we are a consumer reporting agency and we are not attorneys. So any information given in today's webinar is educational in nature and should not be considered legal advice. Presenting with me today are Brittany and Heather. Brittany works in accounting and special projects management, and Heather is a member of our client services team. Brittany and Heather are on the front lines of our drug screening operations and are most likely who you communicate with if you've contacted us with drug screening questions. Our agenda today includes taking a look at the eScreen network, including a discussion on testing options and turnaround time. We're also going to talk about the future of drug testing and oral fluid testing. We'll cover the topics of detection rates of various drugs, the impact of THC on today's drug screening environment, and take a look at an industry drug testing survey. Throughout the presentation, if you have any questions at all, please submit them in the Q&A chat, and we'll dedicate time at the end to address those questions. And now I am going to turn it over to Heather and Brittany to get started.
Thank you, Stephanie, and welcome everyone. We're so glad to have you join us today. I know I've spoken with a lot of you on a regular basis, so it's good to see you all here again. We're going to start off by talking a little bit about the eScreen network in general. So, as a lot of you know, eScreen is the largest network of clinics in the country. I mean, they have over 5,100 clinic locations that are equipped with the eScreen services. So, encompassing all of the services. So, lab-based, breath alcohol, occupational health things like physical exams, audiograms, etc., titers tests. So depending on the clinic's availability of equipment, what they're equipped to do, different clinics will be able to perform different services. As a lot of you know, there are instant tests that are available as well if that clinic is equipped. There is a paperless chain of custody called an electronic chain of custody, also called an e-passport. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the e-passport terminology. And those, of course, are only at those clinics that have the electronic system to scan that e-passport. So you will see those instant tests. Standard will give those instant negative results. Now, of course, if there's a possible positive, it may still have to be sent to the lab. But in most cases, those instant tests will give instant results in about 15 minutes. And of course, a lot of these clinics offer both DOT and non DOT service options. So to talk about the turnaround times a little bit, of course, lab-based testing turnaround times are going to be a little bit longer because they do have to be shipped to the lab overnight. So these are pretty much averages. Of course, sometimes they will take a bit longer or less time. So those lab-based tests for a negative are typically around 24 to 48 hours. And then those positives, of course, those going to the lab being sent through confirmation testing and MRO review takes a little longer to get those results back, average of 5 to 7 business days. And then those instant, as I just mentioned, negatives in 15 minutes and positives that have to go through confirmation testing and MRO review takes 5 to 7 business days on average. There are a couple of concerns that we currently have within the eScreen network. Number one being their customer service response times. So, we are working on a solution right now. We do have some great things in the works. So, we're really hoping to see those turnaround times to improve here soon. There are also limitations regarding clinic availabilities that have that new, it's called an E-Cup Plus instant reader, and those can read both the E-Cup instant test and the X-Cup. So in the past, there had to be two separate readers. So the clinics getting that equipment, it takes some time, so there are some limitations there. Also requesting a new clinic location. So if you're not finding a clinic location near the candidate or your location and you want to request a new one, that is a long process. First, we have to reach out to eScreen. The clinic team there has to reach out to the clinic. The clinic has to agree on their contractual terms, pricing, etc. So that can be a long process to get a new clinic enabled. And also, as far as those requests that we send to eScreen, just pointing out that, a lot of those issues we have to go to eScreen. We can't do those ourselves. And most of them are missing documentation. So I would say probably 70 to 80% of the requests we send to eScreen are, a missing med card on a physical or missing final interpretation of a titer test, something along those lines. So, as I mentioned, keep in mind that if you request a new service, a new clinic, missing information on a test that was done, keep in mind that we have to reach out to eScreen for their assistance on all of those requests. So, what does the future look like? So, we are seeing some trends. This is from the National Drug and Alcohol Screening Association. So, first thing to point out is that SANSA has now endorsed oral based fluid testing for federal employees, and that was in October of 2019. So that's big in the world of oral fluid. In addition to that, on the same topic of oral fluid, the Department of Transportation is now signaling their intent to start allowing the use of lab-based oral fluid for those DOT tests. Now that's not in place yet, but they have signaled their intent to that might be coming in the future.
And I would like to point out one thing on that, Heather.
Sure.
With the DOT and the oral fluid, eScreen has acknowledged that as well, and they are working with their labs to get that in place. So that is coming.
Great, thank you. And then thirdly, of course, everyone's aware, more and more states are legalizing or decriminalizing or causing, medical marijuana legal. So more and more of our clients are focused more on recent use and not, overall lifestyle drug use. And oral fluid is really the only recent use detection testing method that the federal government endorses. So, it's really only the legally defensible recent use detection method and will show much more recent use than a urine specimen. So as far as the trend goes, I mean, of course, urine and hair testing are never going to go away. They have their place in the drug testing industry and will probably always have the place. But oral fluid testing is representing the future. I mean, all indicators suggest that the future is here. We're seeing more and more clients wanting to utilize oral fluid testing. This was a current consulting group's 2022 survey that they had done on drug testing about who offers oral fluid. And you can see in 2019, 36%, and in 2022, already up to 85% offering oral fluid. And so in the future, it's predicted that oral fluid testing and urine are going to be about equal as far as the testing methods go. Now, as far as advantages of oral fluid testing, there are several. Of course, it does prohibit some of that adulteration and substitution. You're directly observing the collection. So if you're swabbing a candidate in the mouth, they don't have a chance to adulterate or substitute that specimen. It is much more cost effective. So, of course, the devices are less costly, it's more convenient, can take place right at your workplace. They're quick and easy. And of course, that shorter window of detection, which, as mentioned before, is a solution for that recent drug use identification. And this is a chart that just shows the window of detection for certain analytes comparing urine to oral fluid. So as you can see here, the average window of detection for oral fluid is, 24 hours to 3 or 4 days. The urine will go back, as much as one day, but all the way up to a couple months. So if you're really wanting to use that recent usage, the oral fluid might be a solution for something like a post-accident or reasonable suspicion. So when you combine oral fluid with the use of rapid result device, it makes the oral fluid testing appealing to these companies. So if you're in coal mines, remote work sites, safety sensitive industries, companies with high turnover. So because they don't require a professional collector as a urine test would at a clinic, and they are 100% observable, they're very convenient for those hiring events, something like that, a remote location, any place, anytime. So if you're doing a hiring event and you want to make a same day hiring decision, doing an oral swab is an easy way to do that if it's the rapid result. Now, I want to point out here that there is a difference between what the DOT may be approving for oral based being lab based, meaning you would collect the oral based specimen and still ship it to the lab. This slide here is talking about those instant. So just like urine, there are lab-based and instant versions. If you're doing an on-site hiring event or something like, in that nature, of course, that rapid result oral test would be a good solution. And it also, is more convenient for the candidate because you don't have to have them travel to an off-site clinic to take a test at the off-site. And just as a side note, we do offer point of collection rapid testing here. So if any of you are interested in inquiring, simply reach out to your account manager. You can send an email to sales@referenceservices.com to get more information. We do have some point of collection rapid oral fluid testing available now. Now, this is more focused on THC. This was done, the report in January of 2023. So, substance abuse is obviously on the rise. A couple of numbers that stand out here are, from 2020 to 2021, there were about 2 million more people who used illicit drugs overall. 52.5 million admitted to using marijuana in 2021, and that increased from 2020 about 3 million. So, you can see there definitely an increase. Then the 37 million Americans admitted to using marijuana the month prior to being surveyed, so recently. And that is definitely an increase over the previous year. So you can see by these numbers that marijuana really is a factor in the overall increase in the country in substance abuse. And I'm sure that's directly correlated to the increase in legalization and decriminalization. So, in addition, the overall positivity rate, which I find this interesting, is only 4.6%. That may sound really high, but if you think about that's based on 9 million urine drug tests, that means 95% of them were negative. So, I mean, while it is an increase, it's still not a, high number of positivity. You'll see the marijuana positivity rate did increase 10.3% year over year from 2021 to 2022. So, that's an increase in marijuana for sure. It also in the recreational states and the medical marijuana states, they both saw increase in positivity rates in their drug tests. Again, that correlation with legalization and decriminalization is definitely causing a lot of this. So, Current Consulting's 25th annual drug test survey did give some top reasons why employers are dropping marijuana from their drug test panel. Now, obviously 63%, and we've seen this as well. We have clients reach out saying, my hiring pool is too small because of marijuana. So it's making it harder for them to hire new employees if they're testing for marijuana. 42%, they're afraid of the legal challenges if they have a disgruntled applicant or employee. 27% actually believe it's not legal to test for marijuana in their state. I believe, and Brittany, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe right now New York is the only state that has any laws as far as not testing for marijuana for pre-employment purposes. Is that correct, Brittany?
So New York is one of the big ones that we see the most currently from our clients, but there is also Philadelphia that restricts pre-employment marijuana testing, and Nevada has banned it from pre-employment testing as well. And then of course there are some states to where, you cannot take adverse action for somebody testing positive on marijuana for a pre-employment test either. So, there's quite a few changes in that area, and, why we do see that increase in clients moving away from testing for marijuana.
And I think probably the one that I think is almost the funniest is the last one, that 4% use marijuana and don't want to be hypocrites. So I thought that was kind of funny. I would have never guessed that. So when the survey asked CRAs and other companies doing drug testing, did you have clients drop marijuana from their drug panel in the last year? 53% of them said yes. Not many, but they have had clients drop marijuana from their drug testing panels. 20% said yes and way too many. 10% said no, but they expect them to do so. And of course, 16% said no. So, while substance abuse is trending upward as far as more and more people testing positive, we clearly don't want to remove drug testing altogether. And if you're considering dropping marijuana from your drug test process, at least leave a drug test panel that has marijuana for testing those reasonable suspicion post accident. And again, that oral fluid might be a good option for that post accident to test for recent detection. Our key takeaways here, basically, eScreen is still the largest clinic location option for the network. So, while we have our frustrations, we are working through them and finding solutions, and we are seeing some improvement there. Even though we're still seeing some delays. Oral fluid testing is definitely on the rise, and there are some advantages to, having oral fluid as an option. And again, if you do decide to remove THC analyte from pre-employment, still consider leaving that in for your post-accident and reasonable suspicion testing.
All right. Thank you so much, Heather and Brittany, for all the great content today. Just a note, if you have any questions, you can ask those in the Q&A chat. You can email sales@referenceservices.com, or you can contact your dedicated account rep. I'm going to take a look in the chat now to see if any questions have been coming in. I'm not seeing any questions.
I do see one, Stephanie, from Robin. So she asks, when is the rapid test best? Pre-placement, random physical recertification. So first thing is it's going to depend on DOT or non-DOT. Obviously we still need to do the lab-based test for DOT. If it's non-DOT, I would say for, certainly could use it for pre-employment purposes if it's a, remote location on site kind of hiring event. But standard would be reasonable suspicion post accident. But I mean, we definitely see it for pre-employment as well. Now they don't really apply to occupational health, such as physicals or recertifications. Then we have a question about the cost of the oral fluid devices. I would suggest to get some quotes on those. Send an email to sales@referenceservices.com, and one of our account managers would be happy to get you some pricing. I would suggest if you send that to our sales department, put in there the panel that you currently are utilizing so we can find the oral fluid device that most closely matches your current panel.
Okay, I think I can see those questions now. They just took a minute to load. So the next question is stating, I thought OSHA prohibited us from post-accident testing. Heather, and Brittany, I'm not aware of that. We could,
I'm not either. I am not either of any. Now, it could, I mean, as far as OSHA, I'm not aware of that.
right.
I mean, a lot of our clients do post accident, and of course, it would depend on the industry, the business type that you're in. So, I mean, clearly DOT requires it. So, Department of Transportation for those CDL drivers will require anytime there's an accident to have a post accident drug test and a post accident breath alcohol test. So, Brittany, are you aware of any OSHA regulations on that?
I am not at this time. I have not seen anything in regards to OSHA.
Okay, so I mean, we can certainly take a quick peek to make sure there's nothing further about that. And Crystal, we can get back with you individually. I am not seeing any other questions. I do see one hand raised, but unfortunately, due to the webinar format, all the questions have to be submitted using the Q&A chat, or there's a chat feature and a Q&A feature. So you can use either one of those to submit your questions. We'll just give a couple more minutes to make sure we don't have any other questions coming in here. And while we're waiting, just as a reminder, we will send the slides and the recording of this webinar out via email within the next few days for everyone. So anyone that registered or attended will get a copy of this. We also post it on our blog at referenceservices.com and within our client portal. All right, it looks like I don't see any more questions for today. So we just want to thank you again for attending our webinar, and please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or would like some more information on drug testing or oral fluid testing. Thanks and have a great day.